You got your,
I'm unmuted. The mic is on.
mic
I'm
is on?
logging into YouTube right now.
Okay.
Oh, I hear something.
All right, I'm back to the list. How do I turn?
You got your,
Okay. Muted, close out of this. Okay.
okay,
Should be.
trying again. Can the people who are not in this room on Zoom hear me? Yep. Is that better?
There we go.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to call this continuance of the public hearing to order and ask Ally to read the notice, please.
A notice is hereby given that a further public hearing pursuant to Article 18-A of the New York State General Municipal Law will be held by the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency on the 12th day of December 2022 at 4:00 p.m. local time at the Warren County Municipal Center located at 1340 State Route 9, Lake George, Town of Queensbury, New York 12845. CVE US E18 Quaker LLC, a limited liability company established pursuant to the laws of the state of New York, having an address of 109 West 27th Street, Floor 8, New York, New York, has requested that the agency provide financial assistance in the form of a partial real property tax abatement, a mortgage recording tax exemption, and a sales tax abatement regarding a certain project to consist of the acquisition by the agency of a leasehold interest in certain real properties located at 53 Quaker Ridge Boulevard in the town of Queensbury, County of Warren, New York, and being known as tax map parcel number 303.11-1 4.1. The planning, design, construction, operation, and maintenance by the company of a 5-megawatt AC community solar facility, the acquisition of and installation in and around the land and improvements by the company of machinery, equipment, fixtures, and other items of tangible personal property, and entering into a straight lease transaction pursuant to which the agency will retain a leasehold interest in the facility for a period of time and sublease such interest in the facility back to the company, all pursuant to Title I of Article 18-A of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York, Chapter 862 of the laws of 1971 in the State of New York as amended. The agency may be providing financial assistance with respect to the project in the form of sales tax exemptions related to the construction and equipping of the project facility, a mortgage recording tax exemption on qualifying mortgages, and a payment in lieu of taxes, which are consistent with the policies of the agency. Should other financial assistance be requested, it shall be consistent with the policies of the agency. A representative of the agency will be in attendance at the above stated time and place to hear and accept written comments from all persons with views in favor of or opposed to the granting of financial assistance contemplated by the agency or the location or nature of the facility. The application of the company is available for public inspection during normal business hours at the offices of the agency located at 5 Warren Street, Glens Falls, New York, 12801. Minutes of the hearing will be made available to all necessary parties. The public hearing may also be accessed via Zoom per instructions below. Thank you. Counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency, David O'Brien, Chairman, and this notice was published November 30th, 2022.
Thank you, Ally. As is my usual practice, a public hearing is to hear comments from the public. I do ask, as part of what I do, is to ask the applicant, in this case, Carson is representing CVE, to give a presentation of the project, why he's coming to the E18 assistance to help people from the attending the public hearing, his position and why the CVE believes they need assistance for this project. And so having said that, I want to ask Carson to give us his overview and his reasons. Thank you,
Hey,
Carson.
Dave.
Yes.
Yes,
Great to
great to see
see
everybody tonight. I'm Carson Winan with CVE North America,
Senior
senior business developer representing this project, this community solar project in the town of Queensbury.
A little bit
A
about.
little bit about CVE real quick. We're located.
Could you hold on
headquartered
1 second,
in New York.
Carson, please? We're getting the feedback and I don't know why. Has anyone got their,
Mm,
you got to turn yours off.
Mute mine. Hello? Okay,
Wonderful.
sorry. Crystal clear.
That's okay. All these electronic things are very
A lot of
confusing.
buttons all need to be coordinated. But I'm Carson Winan with CVE North America. We're a community solar developer headquartered in New York City. We've been in New York City for about 6 years. We are part of a larger CVE group that's headquartered in Marseille, France. So 300 person company with over 500 megawatts of renewable energy assets operating worldwide. In New York, we have a 13 project portfolio that is set to start construction as we speak right now and over the next few months. This is one of those 13 projects. It totals 72 megawatts. All of our projects are 5 megawatts or less per the regulations from New York State. This project's located at 53 Quaker Ridge Boulevard on an 80-acre parcel of land. Our facility has a limits of disturbance. We're using about 35 acres. So this parcel it's a really good use. Our community solar farm is a really good use of this parcel. This parcel is swampy. There's a lot of topography. It's landlocked. It's located just south of the county airport. It's been sitting vacant for many, many years. There's state DEC wetlands in the northwestern corner of the property, and we're using everything to the south and to the east. In July, we received full zoning approvals from the town, including site plan approval, special use permit, and seeker negative declaration. Since then, we've been organizing our construction team, finalizing our financing, pursuing these benefits with the IDA. Some of the benefits, the reason why these projects are so heavily incentivized or in New York State, heavily favored, is there's state level legislation to really kickstart renewable energy. The goal is to get to 100% clean energy over the next 10 to 20 years, and this is a huge component of that. So this facility will displace enough brown energy, enough dirty fossil fuel energy from the grid to be equivalent to planting over 14,000 acres of forest. So its clean energy impacts are very significant. Beyond that, as a community solar project, they're able to deliver financial benefits to the community through reduced energy bills. So there'll be about 800 to 1,000 customers that can subscribe to this specific project. Many of them will be low income, meaning they make less than 80% of the median income of the state. And they'll receive a 10% discount on their monthly utility bills for the next 25 years. All you have to be is a National Grid customer. There's no other strings attached to it. There's no sign-on costs. There's no termination costs. You ask for your utility account to subscribe to this project, and we're able to deliver credits to your bill every month. So we'll be targeting customers closest to the project first within the county. And over the life of the project, which will be 25 years of community solar credits, these customers will save in aggregate over $4 million in energy savings. We're seeking pilot property tax on the solar facility. So we're seeking a pilot at a rate of $6,500 per megawatt that escalates 2% each year for the first 15 years. That That revenue will be split between the town, county, and school district. That's one of the highest rates we've seen across our 13 project portfolio. And we will still, I think it's worth noting that we will still pay, full rate taxes on the land. CVE is set to purchase the property. Once we get a green light on the outcome here with the IDA, on the outcome of our pilot, we're set to purchase the property. And we'll pay full assessed taxes on the land, and we'll pay full assessed taxes on the special districts such as water, county, water, library, sewer, things like that. So the pilot would impact the solar facility itself. Without the pilot on the solar facility itself, the project is at risk. The project wouldn't be able to get financed and built. So there's a huge question mark and a lot of uncertainty around the expenses of the project without a pilot. So our bank, our lender has indicated that we need the stability, the predictable payments of a pilot to get it financed and constructed. So that's why we're here today, and that's the overview of the project. Thank you.
As a matter of fact, I think you answered in your application. I believe you answered in your application that this project would not commence without assistance from the IDA as requested. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. All right, open up for public comment. If you do, please identify yourself and your association. So maybe some people can't see you. So go ahead, and I'll try and recognize people. I have two screens here, I think. So I may not see anyone. So if you do, please flag us. I think I saw Carla. Your
Yes,
first hand up.
Thank-
Carla,
you.
go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. My name is Carla Bittner. I am an attorney at Bartlett, Pontiff, Stewart, and Rhodes here in Glens Falls. I am here representing the Queensbury Union Free School District. I do see on here that Superintendent Gannon and Assistant Superintendent Whittemore are present as well. I want to thank the IDA for the opportunity to speak at this public hearing, and I want to thank Kara for answering a few of my questions a few weeks ago when I called and said, what is going on? So I do appreciate that, Kara. That was very helpful. As you may know, obviously, the school district is the taxing entity that is going to be implicated and impacted as much on this one. Our tax rate is 78% of the total tax rate. What you may not know is back in 2016, the school district purposefully adopted a resolution under real property tax law 487-8, which opted out of granting the exemption for certain energy systems like community solar. In other words, if this were not an IDA project, the school district would not be sitting here. The school district would be getting full tax relief, and full tax dollars on the full project. However, because this is an IDA project under the general municipal law, unfortunately, the school district's purpose and decision 6 years ago to specifically opt out of exemptions, is to no avail today. So that being said, the school district does understand that. However, we would be remiss if we would not request that the calculations set forth in the proposed pilot be revisited. From our very rough math, looking at the pilot agreement, the proposed pilot numbers, with improvements of about $10 million, that's a potential of $160,000 of tax revenue to the school district. Because this is an IDA project, that's being cut to $25,000 with a minor escalation for 15 years. So that's a significant amount, and the school district has to let its folks know that, look, we understand we are trying to keep tax dollars in the school district. Because this is an IDA project, we are unable to do that. However, we would request that on this project, and Carson, I do appreciate that the figure of 6,500 is higher, than many. If that's a NYSERDA number, it's not a requirement, it's just a potential. The school district would request that the annual payment for the district be increased to the full value that the school district would be getting if this were not an IDA project. I'm happy to answer questions, but being a public comment, I just wanted to sit out there and put it forth for the IDA to consider the financial ramifications of this project on the school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Is that you waving, Robert?
It is me.
Okay.
It is. I put up my hand and all that.
Well, I didn't know if you were adjusting something because it's off my screen.
No, sorry.
That's okay.
I have to say who I am. I'm Robert Hafner from Miller, Manick, Shackner, and Hafner. We're appearing as town council for the town of Queensbury. You see Supervisor Strauss here. I think TERIR is Terry Ross, who's our assessor. The town has 5 or 6 of these type of projects in the pipeline right now. We think that it's very important for all of them to be treated the same. The first one of the official 60-day notice of intent letters that we as town council received was this past summer for another project. It appears that maybe these people did provide some notice to the town, but I have not seen it, and I would like to have them provide me with proof that they provided the required notice under 487. The town, when we received the 60-day letter from another developer, we provided it to the town. We worked with the assessor and the planning department and gave the town board the outline of how the rules work, that if they don't act, 60 days passes and you lose your opportunity. And the town board worked together to come up with a policy of how they want to treat these type of projects throughout the town. We think that it doesn't make sense for a developer to be able to shop around to find lower, what's the lowest pilot, that we can have. It should be consistent within the town. The decision that the town board's policy was is slightly different than the school districts. The school district opted out totally. The town board went through a sort of a balancing of the environmental benefits that Carson explained and the need to have every person in the town pay its fair share of taxes, because if their taxes are lower, everyone else's is higher. I mean, that's just how the math works. The proposal, the policy that they came up with, and that we have written the first of the letters that we as town council were notified about, provided for 3 things. One, if it says full payment of any taxes on the underlying land, which Carson said, that's just the way the law works. I mean, pilot doesn't affect that. You have to pay the underlying taxes because you can't get away from that. So really, it's the other 2 parts. It's the town, school district, and county taxes. Our letter only applied for town taxes because the school district opted out and we couldn't control that. But the town's opinion was that a developer should pay 50% of what the taxes would be otherwise, and that they would pay 100% of all the special assessment taxes, which Carson explained as part of their proposal. So our difference is that we think that every solar project in the town, whether or not they come seeking IDA financing or not, should be treated the same, and that it should be 50% of the taxes on the improvements. We want to note, because maybe you all know, maybe you don't know, but I've gotten a lot of education from Terry and from our research, and there is not controversy. The question of the definition of the value of these things is not determined. Usually the assessor, and when they value properties or improvements, they have a process that they go through. The state legislature, last year passed some legislation to come up with a formula to use, which the assessors, we represent 25 towns. So we've heard it from several assessors. It ends up with a very low value for solar projects, but it's a matter of litigation. That methodology is still not set because the courts in New York have said you can't use it yet. We're still going through whether or not we think it's a valid way to determine fair value. But the town strongly feels that its policy should apply to all solar projects, whether or not the IDA is involved. And to the extent the IDA asked or wanted the town to have given its input earlier, I apologize. I didn't realize that you were waiting for more details. I did have a discussion with Kara, and this is what our policy is for the town. It's one that we're working with. The first of the projects that we got the 60-day letter that we're aware of, and we were told by the town board to send a similar letter to anyone else who sends the notice required under 487. That's the town's input and what they would like the IDA to have as their pilot, is a pilot that's consistent with what the town is going to require of other people.
Just a note, Robert,
Yes,
that notice and the proof of delivery, FedEx proof of delivery, was sent to the town.
I have not seen it. I would like
Carson
to.
sent it to the town himself. And he copied the IDA. So just a note.
I'd like to see it. We had warned the town board, as town council, about a year ago, that we know that at that time 4 or 5 of these projects were coming up. We expect to get these type of notices, and when you get one, make sure we get it. The first that I saw was the one this summer for a different project down on River Street. So if one came, I'd like to see proof that it was, duly delivered and received by the town. I'd like to see what it says. But this is under the IDA, and the IDA can impose whatever pilot they deem appropriate for the project. And we have given our input, and you heard from the school district what they think. And I think ours is sort of halfway between what they would end up if the IDA was not involved and what I think they're proposing, because it's a very small percentage of the tax is what it ends up being.
I wondered if I could get clarification from Robert and Carla both. So
Who's talking?
this is Brian Campbell on the IDA board.
I'm sorry, I can't see you. You're not on my screen. Sorry, Brian.
Looked in a different page.
Yep.
Anyway, when Carla mentioned 160,000, was that based on what your assessor would assess it, or the state's assessment process for solar? And I guess that's my question.
I can take that, Brian. That was based on the pilot agreement that was proposed with the notice of public hearing, saying the improvements were about $10 million. So we just did very rough math, with our 16% rate, with $10 million, it's $160,000 a year. Plus, obviously, the amount we would get on the underlying land, which we would get anyway.
Right? Do we know what the state assessment, the way they're doing it, would equal?
I don't, and I was speaking with counsel just earlier today, Counsel Dylan Harris, who represents the assessors and a number of municipalities in that litigation Bob referenced. And my understanding is they're still in litigation. The state just made a motion to dismiss, which was denied. And which means that the state's value, their methodology is not yet ready to go. The court hasn't decided if they're allowing it, and they're still kind of trying to figure out litigation. So as of now, and knowing how quick the court system is, I would guess that once this goes into effect for the 2023 AV, you would be dealing with the one that Terry would put on it, not the one the state would require put on it.
Correct. This is Terry Ross. I'm the assessor from the town of Queensbury. And yes, that is correct, Carla. Just for those of you that may not know, the state, working with NYSERDA, came up with a formula without much negotiation or comments from the New York State Assessors Association, of which I'm a past president. Right now, a 5 megawatt system, depending, of course, on where it is in the state, the system that the state came up with would yield it would make it about a $1.6 million assessment. A far reduced number than what the applicant has said that the value. I'm not saying that that would be the assessment, but even just if you're looking at the land value and improvements that they have on their paperwork, like Carla said, was a little over $10 million. You know, we don't know what's going to happen with a lawsuit, and so I can't tell you right now what the assessment will be. I will have to make a decision by March 1st, but I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere higher, unless there's a judge that's saying, you know, you have to use the state's calculation now. That I would predict it to be higher than $1.6 million.
Okay, so back to Bob went, is doing about what the towns are, you know, projecting. Where
That
6,500 somewhere between the state rate and the actual value, or are we anywhere in the middle, or whereabouts do we come in there?
we haven't. We have not made a decision. We've been waiting for this court decision, and I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week when that decision came down. So no, I'm not ready to commit to a number.
And she can't.
No, yes,
Right.
thank you.
She can't until later on, and the process is not handled in a public forum. But I mean, logically, I'm not an assessor, but it doesn't make any sense to someone to spend $10 million for something that's only worth 1.6. I mean, you don't spend that much money. I mean, it's simple math. But she has her own rules that she has to follow, and she will follow them strictly.
John,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we being the town, we're looking at, 3 solar projects near the airport. This is one of them that CVE is doing. Nexamp is doing 2 others, both about 5 megawatts. Seaboard Solar is proposing one up in French Mountain. AC Power on the Prime. ASD Spartan Amp Energy over on River Street. And they secured this Henry Sommerfield from Hudson Russ to make a proposal to us, pilot agreement. And this sounds closer to what we would like to see standardized moving forward. One, the town, we will receive 50% of real property taxes, which would be assessed on the improvements, full 100% of special assignment taxes, and then full payment of any taxes which would be assessed on the underlying land. So, we're thinking that 50% of what would be the usual town taxes on whatever given assessment it ends up being as fairer to the town. In any event, we would like something like this standardized moving forward.
and to clarify, our letter was only applying to town taxes, but we think for the purposes of this with the IDA, that it would also apply to the other taxing districts, the school district and the county. that we'd all be treated the same. The thing about town taxes only was just because that's all that we could do in that letter. So that's our request.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Bob. Anyone else comments? Travis, please.
Hi, Travis Whitehead. I'd just like to remind you all that the WWIDA, which means Industrial Development Agency, exists to benefit the towns and its residents. No other purpose for it. Not here to hand out anything. What we're hoping to do is to perhaps generate jobs for the community. What we're looking at today is just taking resources away from largely the school system and putting the burden back on each individual taxpayer. So I just want you to think when you come to vote on this about what the purpose of the IDA really is. Because there absolutely is no benefit in this project. I say there is no benefit. I have been a member, I have been participating in community solar for the last 2 years. I've been getting my 10% discount. Those photovoltaic cells are over in Johnstown. There's nothing saying that something put here in Queensbury will benefit somebody in Queensbury, and there's not saying that somebody in Queensbury can't today go and get same benefits that I've been enjoying for the last 2 years. And that may sound a little selfish to say, not in my backyard, but I'll take someone else's green energy. But in fact, as was pointed out here, we have the potential of 6 projects on the books. But that's not anywhere near the green energy we get from the hydro at the Sherman Island Dam. Mr. Winand went ahead and indicated that he expected his 5 megawatt solar field to produce 9 million kilowatt hours a year. The Sherman Island hydro plant produces 161 million kilowatt hours a year. That's almost 20 times the amount. And it's more green than any photovoltaic system out there. That dam was put in 100 years ago. The equipment is largely that old. It gets replaced maintenance-wise. It's green energy. Supposedly, and this is again according to solar websites, a 5 megawatt field can support the electrical needs of about 800 homes. Well, that would mean that this dam supports over close to 16,000 homes. There aren't 16,000 homes in Queensbury. So Queensbury has been doing more than its share already, producing green energy. And so to look at that as a benefit, I think you'd have to look at what we are already doing. The other problem with this is that one of the larger taxpayers in Queensbury is Brookfield Power, who runs Sherman Island Dam. And they have already in the past filed Article 7s asking for reduced assessments. And if the IDA gives them just more reasons to go back and ask again for further reductions because, hey, you're giving it to these other green energies and we're more green than they are, why not reduce us? This could snowball greatly. I suggest actually that you take the path that the Cattaraugus County IDA and also the Niagara County IDA have done recently, and that is suspend any consideration of, put a moratorium on considering any solar applications until some of these issues are settled with the state. As they said, there's a lawsuit going on. A state agency went ahead and said that we're going to come up with some new assessment rates. This did not go through the legislature. This is all being, I think it was the town of Blenheim that went ahead and brought the suit. State asked that it be dismissed, and that was thrown out. So this is going to take a little bit of time, I think, to resolve, but maybe it would be best. We are doing our share. Last thing I'd like to say is that looking at the data that was included in the handout for this public hearing, it's fraught with errors. And if either of the two lawyers that are now listening want any kind of reason whatsoever to say that this public hearing should be redone in the future, I'm about to give it to you, because these numbers are ridiculously stated. Let's go down, if you will look at that last page on your sheet where their pilot is and the benefits. It says that on the cost benefit analysis down near the bottom, the estimated mortgage tax exemption you're going to give them would be valued at $162,844. I agree with that. That's the last thing I agree with. The estimated sales tax exemption of $292,500 is only showing the county tax. There's a larger amount, $390,000, which is a state tax exemption. And that should be part of what's listed in here as $0 other public funding. But the most massive mistake that was made here is the benefit received from the pilot itself. On your sheet in front of you, it says $562,036. If you look up, that's what they're expected to pay as a pilot, not what the savings is as a pilot. The savings is $2,907,386. So when you come down and say that cost benefit ratio, that is the benefit they're receiving compared to the cost that they're putting in, is only 7.04%. You're off by quite a bit. It's about 26%. 7% on the paper that was handed out to the public. 26% if you correct your mistakes. Now, this sheet, I think, was put together by the IDA, but it is signed by Carson Wienand. So I think that should be looked into. But in general, consider the benefits and consider the costs to the taxpayers. That's why you're here. And I think if you do, you'll find out that the offers made by the town to say, well, we'll cut it in half, are far better than they should be. If it were me, I would just say, well, wait until this thing gets settled and we'll do what the state says. But that's me. I suggest that you not approve it. You can't approve it because these numbers are just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Any other comments from the public? Bob, you're waving to me again.
Yes, I am. I forgot one part of my presentation I was supposed to make. Sorry, John and Terry. All of our comments are based, it's to the extent that this is an appropriate project to receive IDA benefits. And we have not yet been able to determine exactly why this is an appropriate project. So our comments are subject to your determination that it meets your criteria for being an appropriate project.
So just to answer that question, Bob, General Municipal Law 852, promote the development of renewable energy project to support the state's renewable energy goals. That's where we get our authority from.
Okay. I will look that up. Thanks.
Any other comments from the public?
If I could again add.
Hmm.
May I? When you evaluate these numbers and you look at other public funding. Please don't forget, as I said, it's not 7%, it's 26%. That's just state. Is Mr. Weenan saying that they're not going to take advantage of the federal investment tax credit? I mean, as far as I know, it's like 30%. NYSERDA has a program where they have what's called an adder. That adder, depending on when you jump in, could be 5 cents a kilowatt hour, could be 10 cents a kilowatt hour. I'm not exactly sure what it is for that, but that could be on a 9 million kilowatt hour a year project, close to $1 million every year. A 30% tax credit could be another $3 million. None of this is put in here. The cost benefit ratio is not anywhere near the 7.04% that you have in this document.
Thank you, Travis. Any further comments? I got to switch screens. Sorry. All right. Well, are there any further comments? Are there any further comments? Are there any further comments? I thank you for your attendance and I close this public hearing. And with that, I now open the special hearing. So you have a copy of the agenda. Sorry. I called meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Tim Robinson,
Here.
Brian Campbell,
Here.
Juan Gonzalez,
Here.
Dan O'Brien, or Dan Bruno, I'm sorry,
Here.
Nick Caimano,
I'm glad I'm Italian. Yes, I'm here.
Dave O'Brien, or Nick Caimano, Dave O'Brien.
Here. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a quorum. We do have 6 out of 10 present.
Okay. So we've had our public hearing. The next order of business is consider a CVE project resolution. So I would ask for a motion to introduce this to the floor. Anyone wish to introduce this floor for discussion? Ryan, second by Nick. Okay, first order of business is I'd like to thank everyone for their contributions to the public hearing. And so we'll open discussion. Ryan.
How accurate are the numbers?
What's that?
How accurate are the numbers in that? Was Travis correct? Or who's correct? Or either right or wrong?
Well, I don't know either, but what I do know is that we do a lot of things after the fact, fights when it's not necessary. Where are those people like Whitehead who know all these things? Why aren't they not coming forward earlier, years ago, big millionaires? Come up, you can run every board in this town. So I don't know why you would stop with us. Go over the numbers,
Nick?
let's go back over the numbers and find out where we made mistakes, if we made mistakes.
Right, I just want to know for accurate.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay?
Any further comments? So I believe the suggestion is we recess this discussion until next Monday.
I could not be here because of a medical thing with my wife, but I would like to be back. Go ahead and do it. Let's get it done. Let's not hold it back anymore. Let's find out why Bob doesn't have that letter. We send out letters, we have people in the town of Queensbury and the assessor side that don't get letters. He doesn't get a letter. What's happening? Is it us? Is it somebody else? Let's find out.
Well, I know that Carson did send it directly to Terry Ross, John Stroud, and other members, including the IDA and our attorney, with the proof of delivery from FedEx. We will somehow get it to Robert. I think Kara can make sure that happens. I don't have his email address. If someone would provide the email address, I'd be more than glad to send it to him.
Good, thank you. And I have had conversations over years and years and years with Mr. Sprout, finding to be a straight shooter. Sit down with him, find out what's going on with his town and our IDA, and let's get things done. I'm tired of reading in the papers, whether they're the comical or whether the post are, that we have not done our job right. Nobody knows that our job is done wrong until after the fact. Nobody comes up before the fact. Because it's because we're sitting in this room that those things happen.
Carson, any input?
Yeah, I have a few comments. First, the sheet, the numbers are accurate. It depends on what level of assessment you're assuming. If we're assuming the assessed value that the school is mentioning and vouching for, then those numbers are accurate. $160,000 in taxes to the school, plus additional taxes to the town and county, maybe $225,000 in taxes just for the solar facility. That's not feasible. The project will not get built. None of the 5-6 projects in towns will get built. It's way, way, way too much money. Additionally, there are benefits to the town with very limited strain on services. There's no new kids in the school district. There's not a new residential subdivision. We don't need to expand water and sewer. There's no new traffic. There's no crime. If this project doesn't get built, it's just a vacant parcel. You're not generating any revenue from it.
Yes.
Also, financing 101, everybody thinks we make a lot of money from these projects. We don't. The cost of energy is very, very low. It's not $10 million to construct this. It's $15 million. I think we updated our application to read 14 million. Since then, in a handful of months, costs continue to rise. $15 million. The investors need to earn $15 million before they can see any return on their investment. That's why there's federal tax credits. That's why there's an upfront cash grant from the state, from NYSERDA. And that's why we're exempt from the state sales tax of 4%. You can't apply an 8% sales tax. It doesn't need to apply to a capital investment like this. Something that you pay on a dinner doesn't necessarily apply to a $15 million solar facility. So we're not walking away with bags of cash here, and I just hope everybody understands that.
So, Brian?
That's fair.
Or Dan?
Just a question. My understanding is that most, if not all, of these projects are constructed on land that is basically not buildable, not feasible, swampland, etc. So what is the value of those parcels without any solar?
Right.
I don't know if anybody can answer that, but to me, it seems that this is one of the few, if not the only way to add some value to that property and accrue some income or whatever from it, but I could be wrong.
So at the very least, I know that the assessment of that property right now is 364, roughly, that comes to my mind. I know that when the assessor,
364,000, right?
364,000. I know that we are waiting for the certain time when that property transfers hands, is that the value of that property is going to go up to, I'm not quite sure. I know what they're paying. I know what the contract's for. That's going to double the taxes coming in, at least double the taxes coming in there based on what the assessment comes. And we leaned on Terry to help provide that number for us. So we can use the base value, use the correct base value to take in consideration what the value of that property is going to be. So automatically the taxes on that property, the assessed value of that property is going to go up at the base level. And they will pay the base tax plus whatever the megawatt is. I do know that a lot of the research was done with NYSERDA, was done with ABO, was done with other IDAs, what they're doing. And I think that Carson once told me that the megawatt in other IDAs is substantially lower than we have requested.
Yes. Yeah, the other pilots we've executed are all 3,500 in the 3,500 range for megawatt AC.
Okay. No, I think that I would ask Chuck to review the finding statement that he's put together, the process we went through and how we came to determine the value. This wasn't a number we graduated or jumped out of thin air. There's a lot of research when we did to come up with this number.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, happy to speak to the numbers and to justification for the incentives provided here. Just to reiterate what Carson said, this project is valued the total cost at $14,475,000, of which $9,750,000 are subject to the pilot calculation. So as far as the pilot calculation, we did look at the per megawatt costs across IDAs throughout New York State. The ABO came out with a report that was issued in May of 22, and the cost range per megawatt was about $4,000 to $7,000. We chose the higher end at $6,500, and the escalation of 2%. Not all IDAs were escalating their numbers. The total pilot payments over the 15 years adds up to $562,036. If you do the traditionally assessed value methodology, the estimated property tax savings would be $2,549,417 over the 15 years. And these numbers were stated in the spreadsheet that was referenced earlier in the public hearing. As far as the county sales tax abatement, it is only county because CVE is already waived from state sales tax of 4% per New York State incentives. So we're only authorized to do the 3% abatement. And as discussed, the mortgage tax abatement estimated from a financing loan of $13,027,500, the estimated savings of at the 1.25% would be $162,844. So those are the specific incentives being offered. As far as talking about the policy, I'd like to point out that the WIDA has adopted the commercial solar guidelines for renewable energy development for two primary purposes. First, to support New York State's reforming the Energy Vision Initiative, which is intended to encourage renewable energy development. This is new renewable energy development to spur new energy business models, economic growth, and consumer choice. The initiative sets statewide goals of cutting greenhouse emissions by 80% by 2050 and generating 50% of New York's electricity from renewables by 2030. The other reason policy-wise we're doing what we're doing, looking to enhance prospects for financing community renewable projects by offering a uniform pilot structure that is simple, predictable, and more appealing to lenders. Also assist by offering a single tax exemption policy, eliminating the need to negotiate pilots with multiple taxing jurisdictions. Now, as far as the specific project, we have cited 6 reasons why we're supporting the project. A couple overlap with what Carson has mentioned, but I will go through all 6 reasons. First, the generating of the 9 million hours of clean energy each year for the next 25 years. And as Carson explained in the last public hearing, this is equivalent to displacing approximately 10,000 cars from the road. Secondly, providing 10% discount energy cost to 1,000 local subscribers for 25 years. Again, this has already been referenced. But I also want to point out the construction of the solar facility will stimulate local economic activity. The estimated number of construction jobs is 40. The infrastructure work is estimated to be 3 million. The equipment cost is estimated to be 6.75 million. And soft costs, including professional services, is estimated at $1.5 million. Fourth, the solar facility will require 3 part-time full-time equivalent jobs of manager, administrator, and independent contractor. Total salary ranging from $222,000 to $310,000 per year. Also, approximately 50% of annual supplies and vendor services will be purchased from firms in the town and the county. Fifth, the solar facility will generate higher land value taxes, pilot payments for 15 years. At the end of 15 years, return to full assessed thereafter, and special district payments starting the first year that otherwise would not occur from this land parcel that is very difficult to develop. And finally, after the solar facility is constructed, the community impacts in terms of site visibility, road traffic, Department of Public Works support, and school district support would be minimal. So with that, any questions?
Yes, Travis.
You didn't address on the benefit, cost benefit analysis, why you have the estimated tax exempt savings of 162,000, the sales tax exempt savings of 292,000. But you didn't put in the savings on the taxes, the school taxes and the town taxes. Instead, you put in the pilot. You should have put in the 2,907,386. Instead, you put in pilot value of 562,036. That's your largest mistake. And it's a mistake of about $1.5 million.
So you're correct. We did put in 560,000. This is according to a methodology that the chairman and I were following. You also pointed out about.
You're saying it's a flawed methodology that you're.
I'm not saying it's flawed. It's the methodology we were following. So I'd be happy to revisit this methodology.
Yeah, it's not a benefit.
I would also like to point out that this you mentioned earlier about federal incentives. We at the state level are really only doing the analysis at the state level, and that cannot enter any financial or federal incentives into this calculation.
I pay taxes to the federal government too. So do you.
The IDA is an associated, no federally.
Yeah, the IDA is a state agency.
Yeah, when it says all public.
I think Chuck and hopefully we'll have this by the 19th. Right now, this would collectively bring a certain amount in taxes the way it says. What that would bring in over 15 years compared to 15 years the way it says is going to be a huge number.
Yes, so if we did the traditional method of taxes based upon the $10 million cost, it would be rounding $3.1 million. So this gets the numbers I talked about earlier, where we're coming up with 562,000. I mentioned there's a savings of $2,549,000. That difference adds up to the $3.1 million if it were to be assessed upon the traditional value.
But without any of that, you're only getting whatever it's getting right now.
We're getting nothing. That's
Right.
land.
Whatever that land value is. So there's quite a difference between what the pilot is plus doubling of the land value is what you were suggesting earlier.
Correct.
Right. So that's quite a significant number than if you do nothing with very little cost added for services from the school, the county, the town.
We just went through a $6.6 billion project. Thankfully, it's hydro. It's going from New York City to Quebec down to New York City. And the point was made that the solar projects and the hydro projects require no services. They're not sending people to school. They're not requiring any town, fire, Well, they might require fire, but let's leave that out because they're getting full value on on the fire. They're getting that full value. They're getting full value for the special assessment taxes, special district taxes, I'm sorry. But it's really requiring no services. Once it's built, it's built. Not sending anyone to school. This was pointed out at the groundbreaking ceremony where the governor was pushing green energy, and environmental issues. So, you know, we are looking at the economic benefit to residents of over $4 million based on the calculations we have. So I think that that's where we're at this point. I guess we have a motion and a second on the floor. What is the will of the board now?
All the roll. What are you asking?
I'm asking what the board wants to do.
You said we call the roll.
Call the roll.
What's that? You said call the roll. Yeah.
You called the question?
This is to approve the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Tim Robinson,
Yes.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez,
Yes.
Dean Bruno,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien,
Yes.
passed.
Thank you. All right, next order of business is UTEP review. We sent the UTEP out. We're gonna put that in for changes. We haven't updated in 29 years. There's been a lot of changes like this GML, whatever I said it was, on the power, other changes. There's been court cases determined on what happens. So have people had a chance to review that?
Oh.
Nick?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Before you leave, I'd like to make a comment. I for one, like the idea that someone like you will come forward anyway and help us here. The problem is that we go out of our way to try and continue the movement of more business here. And you come in, or people like you come in, and instead of sitting there and say, look, how about if I sit by your fire and help you, and we'll make this even better? No, it's always you guys are full of crap, and you must be putting money in your own pockets, because that's the only reason you'd be sitting here. I resent that, and I don't care what you have to say for the rest of the day. That's my point of order.
So I would like to, Travis, you might not have known this. We did reach out to the town early,
Yes,
sit down and talk to them about how we're going to move forward. We expected comment from them. We never got comment from them. So it was not from our lack of reaching out to the town to get assistance from them. We also reached out to the school district. And had a meeting with the school district. And so I just wanted,
Well, as
I just-
as was indicated earlier, these people say I wasn't aware, you know, and you know, Mr. Hafner was saying I was looking for it and I still wasn't aware. I am looking for these things. I'm not aware. We used to have a paper, it was pretty good at putting this stuff out here, knowing what was going on. We don't have a paper like that anymore. So
we got a paper.
if I had known about this earlier, I would have commented over it. Now that I, note that there's a discrepancy of 1.5 million on here, I think we need to do it over again. But one of the things I was trying to say earlier, prior to the vote, was if you go back and look at that property, and Mr. Campbell was asking the question, back in the Obama days, when they were looking for shovel-ready projects, that exact parcel had already been shovel-ready approved to be a tech park. And they were looking for a tenant at that point in time. It was then held up by, well, we're going to extend the runway on the airport, which never happened. And that held that all up. that runway will never happen. So you could put a tech park in there if you wanted to, whether it fits in or not, but it's not just unusable land. But there's a 2011 article in the Post Star, if you look at it, Mr. Carmeno, well known, his name is in there as actually saying this tech park would be competition to your tech park. So he's well aware of it as well. And I come here to try to correct things and to try to, and
No, you come here.
But let's not make it personal.
You're right. That's why I take it personal. I won't anymore.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that, you understand everything, and when your numbers are off by as much as they are, I think some people will sleep right through it and say, yeah, it's only 7%. It's nowhere near 7%.
Thanks, Travis. We appreciate your input.
Before we go on, one more thing, Dave.
Yeah.
I think something that Carla and Bob brought up about being the same as the towns. We have to do something where we're the same with everybody we deal with. Each town's gonna want something different. I think that's beyond what should be our expectation. We can only do our job with saying, we can't change for every individual town. We never get anything done. So that's kind of where we kind of got to go with our own program. I just want to make that point that whatever we decide to do, we're gonna have to move forward.
It was reinforced by court cases that gentleman's law is our guiding light, and RPTL is the town's guiding light. So, and it was clear in the court cases that GML is the higher authority at this point. Right or wrong, we didn't make the laws. We just follow the laws. Okay, thank you all. UTEP, we sent out the UTEP. Any comments on the UTEP?
None.
This UTEP change has been a product of about 2 years of review and look at. It actually changes some of our policies in a positive light. People talk about the mission of the IDA. The mission of the IDA is very clear. The mission of the IDA is economic benefit for the community. It's a very wide open, and everything we have done has been according to state law. Any other comments?
No.
So what happens from here is that the UTEP will be sent to municipalities for comment, and we allow them X number of days, I think probably 30 days, to get comments back to us before we adopt the UTEP. We'll be adopting the UTEP in conjunction with the bylaws, because not the bylaws, the policy, because the policy currently contains a UTEP, and under advice of council, we're separating the UTEP from the policy manual. Thank you. Any other business come before the board? Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.